slightly. It's actually a little more tragic than being a coke fiend, I think. Because coke's a drug for winners.
We have our soundbite for the start of the show.
So,
Well, hello, listener, and welcome to episode 5 of the Tables, Lads and Chairs podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ray Hewson, joined by the resident wallflower, Steph Hughes. Say hi, Steph.
Hey, how's it going?
And the as yet unnamed crane of the group, Danny Crane. Say hi.
Hello.
The crane of the group.
The Crane.
Danny the Crane.
Like a
There we go. We got a
WCW
different
wrestler. Not at all. So this week's episode, of this theme at least, is going to be around cancelled TV shows, the things that broke our hearts, really devastated us, and that's a horrible way to start a show.
Yeah.
God damn.
I'm so excited now. Thank you, Ray.
I want to start things on an upbeat note instead. Captain America: Civil War. One of the many trailers has dropped.
I now know everything that's going to happen in this film.
I still feel like they may be holding back because, like, when they're in the airfield, it just feels like that's not the final battle. Even though it looks like there's a bit of finality, it's what, 6 people running at each other, and they're definitely not showing us all of it, but it just feels like there's something more that they're holding back.
You can only hope.
Yeah.
We're dancing around it though.
Yeah.
It just looks terrible. At this stage, like, these Avengers films, they've pushed themselves so far now, and I'm like, it's such a bizarre concept to, like, bring them all together in the last Avengers film and then just break them all off in one go in this Captain America film.
But they're not though, because I mean, you think about it. You've got Thor; he's off in his own world at the moment. Hulk, he's not there apparently.
He's in hiding.
He somehow flew the ship away, didn't he? In Age of Ultron.
Yeah. Well, he didn't necessarily fly it away, but it was.
He managed to control the screen, which he was talking to Black Widow with.
Yeah, well, it must be quite hard with, like, Hulk hands. You just like it's like when you've got fat fingers and you can't dial on your phone. It's like that. So fair play to it. The conflict makes sense. I mean, it's an adaptation of the comic story Civil War, but like I like how it's just more the core idea. You know, 2 sides of heroes going against each other, but it's building off the actual film continuity. Like, realistically, all this shit that's happened so far, it makes sense that, like, the government would try and, you know, control it, you know. Especially with what happened in Captain America. Like, the main kind of peacekeeping force in the world is, oh, no, they're fairly evil. And then the Avengers become the actual peacekeeping task force of the world. Like, they appoint themselves above everyone else. So
yeah, because they see corruption in any large government. The moment it's beyond them.
Yeah, they see themselves as incorruptible.
Yeah, definitely, which isn't a good idea to start with. But yeah, they call it the Sokovia Accords, don't they?
Yeah.
The whole idea of controlling them. But like I said, we're dancing around the biggest part of this trailer.
Da, 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 da.
Spider-Man. Looking sexy.
Oh, he doesn't.
Sounding like he should, like a teenager, because he's meant to be a teenager.
Sounds all right.
And the eyes, man, the emotive eyes. Oh, dreamy.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that so long. Ever since they cast, Garfield as Spider-Man, I'm like, when you do the suit, make those eyes emote themselves.
Definitely. I think for the last, 6 months, I've turned into J. Jonah Jameson. Like, bring me pictures of Spider-Man!
Am I the only one who really didn't want to see a picture of Spider-Man? Because even after looking at it, everyone knew Spider-Man was going to be in this film.
Well, no, everyone that was comic booky, general audience, you know, if you tell them Spider-Man's going to be in this film, you're going to increase the viewership. Let's face it, that's why they
didn't have to
had to
show Spider-Man. I was telling Ray earlier, they didn't have to show the whole image of Spider-Man in the trailer. I mean, think about Spider-Man. What's he synonymous with? It's like just the whole web swinging, slinging, like I told Ray earlier. And, like, all they had to do was just have, like, you know, one little cut scene of, like, say, like, his arm just, like, shooting a web, and everyone would know what it was.
True, but they also
wouldn't have that massive reveal just spoiled for...
I don't think that's the big reveal, because I think he's going to start off without that suit. It's going to be more raw, isn't it? I think that's where that's what people really want to see.
And that's just cinematic blue balls, Steph. Blue balls isn't pleasant, don't wish that on anyone.
But they assume stupidity with any audience, so they do overshow, which is why Batman v Superman has 4 trailers, 7 TV spots, and a Super Bowl ad to go with it as well, where you do feel like you can piece together the whole movie, but it never quite works. Like Star Wars, I saw so much of those Star Wars trailers, I didn't quite get the story exactly how it was, which I was happy about. I didn't know, I wasn't,
Yeah, usually you can work out an order to the scenes when you watch trailers, but you can't necessarily work out all the kind of the subplots and the how the story kind of melds together, really.
Well, Spider-Man was a big one. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan myself. I never thought I'd see him in the Avengers, considering Sony having such a tight grip on his reins. They're not going to let him go. But it is great to see. It's, for me, the way everyone was excited about Avengers 1, where the first team coming together, is how I feel about Spider-Man being in that team now. I'm finally excited because it's technically the third Avengers film. Let's face it.
Yeah.
It's sort of revamped my interest in the Avengers films, because at this stage I'm tired of superhero films, but seeing Spider-Man has actually just gone, I might give it another go. But in general, I'm just so tired of it.
Well, I think we can thank Deadpool for almost slowing or stopping the superhero fatigue. Yeah, that was a big worry.
You need that kind of diversity now, because we're getting to the point with so many being released every year. They need to start being fairly different to work. I mean, this year's quite a mixed bag, which I'm liking. I mean, alright, Batman and Superman, Civil War, same kind of concepts, heroes versus heroes, but I mean, Deadpool, yeah, that was something completely different. Played up the comedy a lot more, and just the absolute kind of wackiness of the character. You got Suicide Squad in August, an actual villain piece. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
There's an X-Men movie out this year as well, believe it or not.
Yeah, everyone always forgets about them.
Under the radar.
I have no interest in that.
I don't know. I think from a
X-Men is the only one I'm really interested in.
From a cinematic perspective, it should be interesting because Bryan Singer is a good director. He does piss over the source material a lot, but
Alleged paedophile.
Yeah, that too. But it was never proven. Innocent until proven guilty. That's what they say.
Absolutely, I should retract that statement. That's fair. But I think it's got to the point with superhero films where superhero can't be a genre anymore. There are subgenres within that. You can't just say this is a superhero film and you know what you're going to get, because you are going to have the diversity, like you say, with Deadpool, hopefully with Suicide Squad, because I really want that to be a different type of film. I want it to be quirky, and obviously you have things in TV shows which are being adapted from comics, like Preacher. It's a big one, which is a very different way to take on that whole idea, and people will assume comic book superhero and they'll think they know what they're getting, but it's very different type of show.
Yeah, I feel like the usually the ones that a lot of the ones that end up on telly are the kind of long running comic series that kind of have a definitive end. I mean, some of them don't, like the Marvel series, but they're kind of independent ones, I suppose.
Nothing to say, Steph?
No, not really.
Still really angry about Spider-Man?
Just really angry about seeing Spider-Man and seeing him look like he's from the 70s.
He
does
did
look stupid.
No, he does look like that.
He looks absolutely stupid.
The only bad thing is the logo on the front. I'd say doesn't look great. It's trying to harken a bit too much back to the original design. I'm like, yeah, but that was just a bad design choice. Just because it's the original doesn't make it amazing.
It's just those colors look so bland. You gotta think of Marvel films, right? They are bright films. In compared to say the Batman trilogy, right, which is a dark film. One of the key things that makes the Avengers film different is just how bright everything is. Everything happens in broad daylight all the time, so you need something bright and shiny to counteract everything. And this Spider-Man suit just looks so dull.
I never really thought of that, but you're absolutely right. Every big set piece, every major set piece takes place in the day. The throwaway scenes, like in the Avengers with Loki, a lot of those take place at night, where they're mostly exposition. But so right, yeah, everything is bright colours. It's a bit more childish.
I do have my moments.
You do have your moments.
Once a year.
The light.
Once a year.
I know we got you in for something.
I think now's a nice time to let the people know that me and Ray are in about 4 hours sleep because we got duped into believing there was a wrestling show on last night.
Did you catch that appalling display last night? Yeah, so we decided to be childish. We decided to watch an event which takes place at 1 in the morning in UK time, because it's broadcast in America, which is, 8 o'clock Central, that sort of thing in America. And it was appalling. And we're both feeling the effects of it.
We've had a weird day as well, 'cause we haven't really done much except make fun of each other.
That's what we all do all day.
And at this stage, I think the burnout's kicking in. Funny though.
There's nothing wrong with pregnant pauses.
I love how you keep saying that.
Pregnant pauses.
Yeah, I've never heard
It's
it.
a real thing. It's a real thing. But I like having those pauses where someone thinks that their media players stop working. They're sitting on the bus. They look down at their phone to make sure it hasn't accidentally cut off.
Oh.
Yeah, well, iTunes would never do that to you. Just remind people we are on iTunes.
We're on iTunes now.
Subscribe, like,
So you can hit that little subscribe button.
give us a comment.
We won't be like Football Weekly and send you 45 downloads in 1 week.
Oh, Steph, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I'm getting word from the news van. Let's go to our correspondent, Steph Hughes, in the news van.
Once again, we're struggling for funny news, but I found this one. This one's dedicated just for Danny.
Yay!
So this week, a man has discovered that he has Sir Mix-a-Lot's old phone number and continuously gets raunchy text from female fans.
Man after my own heart.
Sir Mix-a-Lot is 52 years old. But yeah, so this
Sir Mix-a-Lot.
random guy has got Sir Mix-a-Lot's old phone number, which is ridiculous, really. Because, like, who is still sending texts to Sir Mix-a-Lot? Like you said, he's not relevant anymore. So after 20 years, do you reckon, like, people are still waking up going, gee, I haven't spoken to in a while. Sir Mix-a-Lot. And they're going to send him a text, are they?
Like, he must, like... Do you reckon he's still fairly rich, or... Like, he still gets royalties, and...
Yeah.
I can imagine so. But, yeah, you don't see cameos from him or anything like that. Maybe he's quietly retreated into the distance. You're right, Steph.
There's a Simple Plan album released this week. And Simple Plan are bigging it up because they hung out with Usher.
Simple Plan is just like a lamer version of Nickelback.
Usher. They reckon they're massive because they hung out with Usher.
I once shook hands with Neville Southall. That should make me one of the best goalkeepers. Judging by Simple Plan's logic.
Well, I once saw Rolf Harris on a motorway when I was a child.
Oh.
Judging by that logic, I was molested.
Molestation by osmosis. A disgusting concept. Ow, getting cramp in my leg.
That's how you're starting the podcast. Ow, I'm getting cramp in my leg.
You know, footballers get cramp in their leg. Just saying.
Yeah. The unfit ones.
Do not disrespect Neville Southall. I've warned you before, and I'll warn you again.
Big Nev.
I'm not even Welsh. I'm supporting this
I've
guy.
never
I'm not
said-
even an Everton fan. I'm supporting this guy.
I've never
Football.
said anything bad about Neville Southall.
Did you see the Darth Maul fan film?
No, I've
I
not
saw
watched
it.
it
I
yet.
haven't actually seen it, but I did see it.
It's
makes sense.
incredible. Okay, the paint on his face alone is good, but the action, it makes me genuinely think there could be a TV show, Star Wars. It would work, like an actual serial. You know, I'm quite excited by that.
Oh yeah, conceptually, like I'd say it's easy to do that. You've just got to not try to be too ambitious and focus more on actual writing than over the top.
People, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be more interested, a TV show with Star Wars, but like of the Sith kind of thing. Because like all 6 movies are essentially, or 7 movies are essentially about the good side of the Force. We don't really see that much of the dark side. I mean, in the prequels you get a bit more of it with Anakin's turn, but you don't never really venture and see what the dark side of the Force actually do. Miss.
But I don't know. One thing that the prequels did kind of drum in is that they weren't necessarily evil. The Jedi were pretty bad, like in the prequels. Like they're just basically just a bunch of celibate monks that told you not to feel emotion.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why people go off the rails to the dark side.
Can we just go back to the description Steph gave for the Sith? He made them sound more like Team Rocket than anything else.
You don't really know what they do in this.
No, that's true. I mean, you get hints with Darth Plagueis. They talk about him in Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
he's the one who trains Palpatine, wasn't he?
Yeah, the one who apparently found a way to
Make himself immortal.
Yeah. He was killed by his apprentice, who turns out was meant to be Palpatine.
That just surely like there's a vague idea of how Sith work for generations. Like they've been killing their masters. It just doesn't seem the most practical system. Like
You'd want to break the chain, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm not going to train this guy too good because he's going to kill me. You know, I'm just going to have a kind of incompetent Sith apprentice.
Yeah,
that's like the Sith way, though, isn't it? Because they pass down all their knowledge to the next generation. Essentially, it's actually like quite a loyal thing to do, except the actual murder part.
But you have to think they're not a large-scale operation. They say that there's only ever two.
The rule of two, yeah.
Yeah, the master and the apprentice, and that's ridiculous. You look at all those Jedi in Attack of the Clones in that big Colosseum thing. That was ridiculous. Them versus two Sith.
Yeah, but the thing is, because there's only two Sith, it's easier for them to hide, I suppose. I mean, from like the original canon before it's all been cast away when Disney acquired it. It was. I remember playing the Knights of the Republic game, and it's pretty much established there used to be a whole planet of Sith, but because of their penchant for betraying each other, it just didn't end up well for them in the end. So that's when the Rule of Two is created. And that's what I remember from my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I thought you said pension fund.
The Sith pension fund.
The Sith pension fund dried up.
I genuinely thought you said pension fund.
Yeah, they don't get killed; they just retire to Dagobah.
I liked the Sith bank, which holds all of the pensions, was on Alderaan. So they really shot themselves in the foot on that one.
God damn it! Darth Vader's got to work for another decade now to get.
On to the main event of the evening. This is all about cancelled TV shows, something which is very near and dear to my heart, and I know it's the same with you guys. And I definitely had some ones I really wanted to pick, and there's quite a lot of choice. And I'm going to go first for probably the first time, I think, actually, in this show's history, the long-established history of TLC. And I could have gone for a few. Jericho was one I really was thinking about and decided against because it's not because it's too obvious, but I feel like it had an ending because they've released a comic afterwards, which really wrapped it up in its own way. I want to talk about a show called The Runner. Now, it's one you probably haven't heard of until earlier on today when I quickly mentioned it to you. It's a show that was being spearheaded by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon when they started their company together and started directing. This is post Good Will Hunting, so this is after they sort of really made a name for themselves in that sense. This is a post 9/11 world, late 2001.
Yeah, establish that because that was in the latter half.
The latter half, yes. So the idea of The Runner, you have a contestant on the show who is traveling around America. They have objectives they need to sort of achieve throughout the world. They're traveling around different states, that sort of thing, but they have to do so undetected. Now they're being aided by a CIA operative to help them in sort of evading capture. They are sort of helping them to pay for things without getting tracked and that sort of thing. But it was a very involved series, so for every episode, the prize for finding that person go up, almost like a bounty. So by episode 6, it would roll over to, I don't know, 60 grand for the person that finds this guy who's going around all America doing all these objectives. And then the show would air a week later, so you're sort of a bit behind. But then they also had I'm trying to think what he was now. He was a detective, like on the show itself, who would then feed them hints and give them advice and tips about how to find him, like what to look for. And it became almost like the idea was meant to be this sort of this hunt for him, for this person. And because it was post 9/11, I think it's ABC or AMC, they chickened out on it because of the whole idea of security with that, helping someone to evade capture. It deemed to be too dangerous. It sounded ridiculous. Like, it sounded something really interesting.
Mental.
Well, the reason why they wanted to do it was alternative television, as they called it at the time. Survivor was dipping. It went from 30 million viewers, 20 million viewers. It was dipping rapidly, so they wanted something a bit more exciting. And that could have been incredible, and they never aired a single episode, which was devastating. I think even a pilot would have given it some credence to actually go forward, but it never happened in the end. But I think it's a fantastic concept. I would watch that. I think by now it'd probably be quite dangerous with the lack of gun control in America.
Yeah.
If you have the possibility of getting $100,000 and some guy's running away from you, would you go for the leg just to catch him? You know, that's where it gets a bit dubious. But
I reckon at this stage you'd probably have like a celebrity edition.
A lot of it would probably be staged, I think.
well, the show wasn't originally meant to be like that, but I think after a while you'd have to. The same vein of Top Gear, you know, when they do their travels across countries.
Yeah, it's became a lot more forced after. It seemed like the comedy was original at first, and then it became a bit more scripted the longer it went on, because they were forced to hit the same kind of, you know, almost quotas for laughs and stuff. I feel like it would devolve into that.
It became almost a machine. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, crossover with Dog the Bounty Hunter.
The ultimate hunter. You're absolutely right. That'd be absolutely awful. But
The dog running.
the idea is when a reality show first comes out, it's quite exciting. Like the first Big Brother, when that came out, I was quite young and a bit too young to really understand it as a social experiment.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. Like really, really enjoyed it. And I kept watching it and quite addicted. And that was the idea with this show. Yeah, sure, it might devolve after a few seasons into something sort of created and sort of churned out for
It's all
the masses.
self-parody, that's the thing. Like, if something goes on for too long, it just kind of can become that.
True. But even one season, I would have lapped that up. And I feel like even dated at 2001, I still really want to watch it. And it's a show that never was, by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I can't believe I hadn't heard of this until we did our research for it. It's bloody incredible.
It just sounds like such an odd concept for those two to develop, really. That's the thing, like...
It's something very different. I hope they weren't doing like an Ant and Dec, like an introduction to it. Like that'd be awful. But it was meant to be produced by them. So I'm guessing it was behind the scenes from their point of view. But
I mean, if it was... You said it was either ABC or AMC. I mean, AMC, they're probably one of the more legitimate channels in America. So
it's
they probably
ABC.
had really... ABC?
It's ABC. I thought it was AMC. It's
that's
ABC.
a Disney one. Maybe that wouldn't have been quite as good.
Ouch.
That pregnant silence.
That's right, though. It does depend on like what.
It does
channel.
sound really interesting, though.
Well, the official description is the runner calls for one person to set out cross-country, accomplishing a series of assignments, all of which he or she would have to perform without being spotted or identified. Every viewer could potentially capture the runner, winning whatever prize money had been accumulated at that point. So it sort of got the whole country involved. And in a way, it may have helped at post 9/11 in its own dangerous way. But it was something that had to be cancelled because it was just a dangerous concept after that.
When it says capture, I mean, like, do you just like run up to them and like go like, "Hey, I caught you," or do you have to like dog tackle them?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is a set of rules. Maybe just
Spider-Man.
shouting a phrase at them or something. But
What, like a safe word? Pineapple!
pineapple would not be my safe word. That's such an innocent...
Not after what you told me.
That was grapefruit.
Grapefruit. I keep thinking it's pineapple. Never mind.
Don't make it seem like it was my idea. It's a disgusting thing. The grapefruit technique, for those that don't know, Google it. You'll find something interesting out.
Don't do
He's
it
actually
now.
Googling it right now.
do it now.
Please don't watch it.
Oh no.
And that is the tale of the grapefruit technique.
That's glorious. It's just a sound effect. It almost sounds like a jaguar mauling you. How was it for you?
I feel like I need to go smoke a cigarette. Disgusting, guys. Thank you for that. So
You're welcome.
So that was my entry into the bout. I want to hear you guys' thoughts.
Well, do you want to go next, or should I?
I'll go first if you want.
Yeah, you go first.
As far as I'm concerned, right, with this TV show, there are two types of people, okay, in the world. You mentioned the word Firefly, and it's either I've never heard of Firefly, or oh my god, why have they only ever made one season of Firefly?
I agree.
That is true.
You only ever get those two kinds of people. It's cancelled after only one season. It was actually cancelled after the 11th episode of the 14-1 series. It's actually got a 9.1 rating on IMDb, which is one of the highest TV shows around. It's really, really good. Like I said, so if anyone doesn't know, Firefly is basically the story of, was it like 9 people based on the spaceship Serenity? It's been a while since I watched it, so I'm a bit shaky. It's such a weird film because such a weird like series because 13 years later that we are now, there are people still pining for more seasons, more episodes. There's that film Serenity that I've never seen. So
It's actually all right.
Yeah, I mean, people give it a lot of heat, but I enjoyed it.
The problem is it had to close up a lot of plot threads in a film, but it was still very entertaining. And it works as its own piece as well, just without the series.
It works. The series itself is such an interesting one itself because it's set so far in the future and so far away from Earth that it's just like, at times it's like alien to what we actually know as humankind and what people do at the minute. But at the same time, like, as Joss Whedon said, I mean, it's a world that is set so far in the future where technology's changed so much, but we still have the same cultural problems. We still have the same problems with political issues, moral issues, and ethical problems. Which is why, I mean, as an idea of the film itself, is so different because it is essentially a sci-fi film that has basically the opposite ideas of what sci-fi films are. Because I don't think there is even a battle scene in any of the episodes at all, really.
No, they have like
Very weak
skirmishes.
scenes.
Yeah.
Skirmishes is the right.
It's like a really weird thing, and part of like what makes the whole issue of Firefly, so engaging to people is that this huge backstory, of what Old Earth was and what it became, and and how these 9 people are living like basically as cargo or holders now and set as scavengers, and there's a massive. There's that massive backstory that never really got, bodied out in that one series. And, there's, as with anything, a TV series that, only had 11 or 14 episodes, that could have been so much more. So I think that's basically why there's so much call for it to come back, which after 13 years, there still is.
Yeah, well, I've got great love for that show. The little details, especially the language, the way that they've sort of augmented Chinese, especially for the curse words, to get away with it, and it works well. Same things like shiny, which it's off, but it's close enough that you sort of feel a connection with it. It's a really interesting show, definitely, and
they treated it like a lot like a Western as well. And I think that's one of the reasons it was able to set itself apart. Because and it makes sense because you've just got all these like kind of planets that are kind of on the fringes of a very populated galaxy, so it makes sense that there'd be a lot of lawlessness and technology in these parts wouldn't be as futuristic and sci-fi, so people are still using conventional ammunition instead of laser guns, even though they do technically exist in this world.
And they never tried to go beyond their means.
Yeah,
I feel like there was never an episode where they went too far in terms of what the scope of what they were trying to do. Occasionally you get shots of a large ship, like the Dortmunder, which is the massive ship in, I think it's like the first episode. But it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's 2003?
Yeah.
So age-wise, not great, but at the time it was absolutely fine. It was acceptable. And even the stuff like the weightless scenes, like when they're sort of in zero gravity, that looks really good even now. And it's an enjoyable
space film in zero gravity.
With Space Cowboys. Yeah, you kept saying film earlier.
I know, I keep saying film.
Obviously, you haven't seen the film, but you need to.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I've never seen Serenity the film.
But
I don't even know why. It's just I've gone to watch it and I've just never pressed play.
Well, the music as well. You think about the Western music in that, and even the theme song.
Yeah, a very Western influence.
So good though, so good.
Oh yeah,
it's a really weird TV show because it takes these ideas from loads of different genres at the same time. And they're ideas that really just weren't, that could have been further explored in more seasons, more series. Even like mini serials, like four serial outputs like that. All these ideas that could have been explored a lot greater into much grander depths, but just never really had the chance. And I can't imagine after 13 years you're going to get a season 2 of Firefly now.
Well, they have aged themselves, and they're quite a bit. So it doesn't seem like it
cast,
fits.
Yeah,
which is fine. Obviously, I was going to say something that happened in Serenity.
Oh no! Don't go there.
I'm not going to go there. I apologise, Steph. But this is going to turn into a sort of a gushing session about Firefly because I think we're all big fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we all have that sort of favourite character as well. Who
Wash?
Captain.
So you're a Washburn Hoban. Is that his name?
Hoban.
Washburn Hoban.
I think so. Yeah.
Something like that, isn't it?
Washburn,
I remember it's all coming back to me quite a bit actually. He's great. River Tam and Simon Tam dynamic stuff that was really really good.
I think Jane had some of the greatest one-liners ever. It's like, you know what the chain of command is? It's a chain I can't get to beat you with until you say I'm in command. It's just like
I'm trying to be careful not to say his quotes from the film either, because like with the gun that he named Vera, I call her Vera. There's so many of those small moments, and they have to have small moments because they don't have as many big moments.
Yeah.
And Joss Whedon's big about characters, and you see that in the Avengers, like a very similar way, where they're constantly bickering with each other. They're never a functional team until they have to be.
Yeah.
And that's when they really come together in the best moments. And it's one of those shows that always shows up in those top 10 lists of,
cancelled TV series.
Cancelled TV series, exactly. What we're sort of doing here. And you can't ignore it. But at the same time, you shouldn't, because it was spectacular.
Yes. Then again, would at this stage, would you want another series of it?
No,
Because
I feel like it's done now.
It's it had its time, it's had its purpose.
And the film did kind of act as the bookend to it. If anything, it's kind of, there was at least a sense of completion after that, even though you still could have continued. So there was at least some closure.
I know you haven't seen the film, but in the film, is it Chadwell Ejiofor? Is that his name?
Chidwell Ejiofor.
Chidwell Ejiofor. He acts so well in that.
Yeah, he's in it.
I really liked it.
Good.
But even though people hate me for saying it. So what?
You what, mate? Deal with it.
You what?
I might watch Serenity for next week.
I'll tell you what, I'm tempted to put it on tonight for you before you go.
Pin him down.
Clockwork Orange style. I'm going to wedge your eyes open.
No, don't do that. Ruin it for me.
Just be like River Thames programming.
Oh,
Right.
I like where that went.
Before this goes on forever and a day, Firefly.
Yes.
It was a thing that happened.
It did. And it was very much a thing that happened and it passed. And
Me and my mates still play drinking games, and they're and usually, do you know, like Ring of Fire? And
Ring of
like
Firefly.
we generally have a round where basically before you actually take a drink, you have to make a Firefly reference
Jesus.
before you drink. So
how cool.
yeah, I have some nerdy friends.
Well, a lot of the actors, they don't want to let go, and I feel like they have to. Now, Nathan Fillion himself in Castle,
Yeah, it's Castle he does now.
many references, even dressed up as Mal himself, as a space cowboy.
I've
like
not
little
seen
things like that,
Oh,
it's
wow.
where you feel like, is he really paying homage, or is he really just not willing to let go?
I'd imagine when they were making it though, they all just kind of considered it maybe the definitive roles of their lives. Maybe they saw the script and they're like, wow, this could be the definitive role I take on.
Yeah, well, the show was great, and I think it had its viewers at the time, but it was poorly managed. Now, you had I think with the start of it, you had a live event that was happening, which moved one of the episodes back like a few hours.
Yeah, they got aired out of order, didn't they? And on different nights, so it was never going to find its viewership, and it was so high budget as well. Like it's doomed before it could really.
But I feel like within that show and within the ship itself, I feel like I could draw out a good map of Serenity. As in,
Yeah,
room in
actually,
that
yeah.
ship. Because the way the camera follows them around, you really get an idea of what's going on in that ship itself. It's not like the Enterprise, for example, or the ship I can't remember the name of in Stargate Universe, where it's just an endless amount of rooms that they can add to
Yeah.
constantly.
Fun fact: the hangar bay was actually a set used in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Favorite.
Can we watch that film?
Ivan Ooze.
Can I get a fun fact segment every week?
Yes.
I would like a Danny Fun Facts section.
I'll do
Coming
that.
next week with a brand new theme song, the Danny Fun Facts. The Danny. Oh. the
Fun
Danny Fun
Fact.
Fact session.
Oh yeah.
That's right. That's right. We can make segments. We can do what we want.
Yeah.
We're in charge.
Do what we want.
We run the asylum now.
Do what we want.
So we have the Runner. We have Firefly. Danny.
Well, I've picked a show that's quite close to my heart that I'm not sure a lot of people have seen. It's called Legit. A lot of people are familiar with the Australian comedian Jim Jeffries. Well, basically, he did a show several years back, 2013, 2014. And he does, a fairly cliche thing. He plays a fictionalized version of himself. And basically, the concept is he was an exchange student when he was like a teenager in America. So he has friends back in America. And then he moves out there to become an actor in Hollywood to legitimize himself, basically. And it's him, his best friend from childhood, Steve, I think his name is, Steve, and then Billy, who is Steve's brother, who's got muscular dystrophy and is in an electric wheelchair. And it's not often that like a television series will take on a character like this as like one of the main cast without them feel like they're kind of pandering a bit and trying a bit too hard. But like Billy's a very fleshed out character. He's funny without making it too tragic about his character, or it's just good that way.
He's not funny in spite of his disabilities.
And it's good, and it's based the whole concept of the pilot episode is based on an actual story Jim Jeffries told in one of his probably one of his earlier shows about how he goes to get Billy laid in a brothel so he doesn't die a virgin, and that's the kind of setup of this, and it's kind of got that kind of humor, and it's got kind of some quite dark and quite dark humor in it, but at the same time it's got a moral to every single episode, which you don't really see that kind of juxtaposition, like really dark humor but then also a moral to the story.
Depraved but with a heart of gold.
And you kind of got that because like in the series you see Steve, one of the main characters, like he's just a real sad sack, like a proper alcoholic and barely keeping his life together. And like sometimes they play up his alcoholism for humor, but other times it's just really tragic watching him slowly destroy his life more, like become more isolated from his daughter and his ex-wife who hates him. But there was a real sense of character development over the time. It lasted 2 series, and you do see these characters develop, and there's a lot of drama in it, and a lot of humor, and it's just really well placed. And ultimately, it got axed because it was an FX show in America, and they were launching a new channel, FXX. And they moved a load of comedies to that channel to try and launch it. But supposedly, this channel was really hard to find because it was like really far down in the actual like television guides, and they were really obscure, so no one found it. And then a lot of comedies lost their audience there, which happened to Legit, and they got cancelled. Now, when Legit was cancelled, it pretty much ended on one of the biggest downers I've ever seen a TV show get cancelled on, and that's pretty much Jim Jeffries. Like he gets his dream, becomes like really famous, and he does like a world comedy tour, but he's just so depressed. Steve washes up and ends up in the army, and you're pretty much like, this guy's not gonna survive here. And then Billy's left on his own, and because there's no one to take care of him anymore, he has to go back to a disability center pretty much to live in, to be helped. And it just ended so sadly, which is a pity. And there's just one great character in it. Like they've got a lot of disabled characters to feature in it simply because like they're the people Billy was kind of living with before he moved in with Jim and Steve. And his name's Rodney. I think he's got Down syndrome, and he really does. And he has got some of the best comic timing I have ever seen. Just the way he spits out a line and just deadpans so perfectly. And, like, you just don't see that. And it's just so different. Like, this is, a type of person that's usually ostracized in society. And, being actually fairly functioning and hilarious without them making fun of him in the writing. And it's just little things like that was just what I found really brilliant about it.
It's very much a taboo, isn't it, in TV? Just any sort of disabilities, mental illnesses, or anything like that at all.
Yeah.
They tend to be handled poorly or not handled at all.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that went against the show was the guy playing Billy.
Yeah.
Didn't actually have the muscular dystrophy himself, but he acted it very well.
Yeah, he was just a really, really skinny guy.
Yeah, he's in
Road Trip.
Road Trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in that zombie TV show as well. Z
Nation, yeah.
Z Nation as well.
I think his name's
TJ
DJ Qualls.
Yeah.
I saw like a panel with him before, like a Comic-Con. He's actually really funny.
Yeah. You've seen him in quite a few things, and it makes sense. And yeah, just amazing acting ability to do that. And there is a whole funny skit about the whole interview process that Jim Jeffries did for the role of Billy, and that was hilarious.
Yeah, I just remember like
as horrible as it was.
Yeah, because like DJ Qualls is usually headhunted specifically for certain types of roles. He doesn't tend to look for them. People look for him because he's got a very specific niche. And then apparently it's
just say what it is. Can we just say what it is? He looks ill. All right. Go Google DJ Qualls.
Yeah, and it's just hilarious because apparently he was saying, like, when his agent was getting him the gig, he was like, just watch this video, you know, Jim wants to meet with you to get you in this show. And then he showed DJ some of Jim's stand-up, and he's like, I can't meet this man. He's just the meanest man in the world.
That guy.
Yeah, the meanest man in the world. Like, no, he's going to destroy me. He's like, just meet him. And I think he turned it down about 4 times. Eventually he met Jim. And Jim, at the time, he was living in LA, and he went over to Jim's house, and Jim had a homeless person living on his couch because he'd met him one day, had a good chat with him, and he was like, oh, come on over my couch for a bit. And it's kind of like that kind of morals you see kind of in the show. Like, he's funny and dark, but in real life, he's just a really nice person.
We have 3 very different types of shows. I mean, you've got Firefly, which was given its definitive ending as much as people didn't like it. Legit, which didn't end at all. I don't think that's an ending. I feel like it's ended almost on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And then a show that never really started in the first place.
But now we live in the age of resurrection. So many shows have been resurrected from cancellation. It's ridiculous. Like Netflix is starting to make a thing of it. When Fuller House just came out. Arrested Development got it. Red Dwarf was resurrected twice.
Well,
3 times now, I think, actually.
I don't think Arrested Development necessarily did too well with its newest season, in my opinion. Personally, I didn't enjoy it as much as the originals.
I didn't. It was enjoyable, but it was a lot of it was to do with longer run times.
Okay.
Arrested Development.
Yeah, so Arrested Development, yeah, that's one of the ones that maybe didn't need to come back. I enjoyed the idea of it coming back.
They did give it closure, though, when they finished it. It was rushed closure, but it was still closure.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
Dallas, that came back like 2 years ago. That did terribly.
Do you think it was done ironically?
It's all a dream again.
Yeah.
There's Friends, that's coming back as well. Who's asking for a Friends reunion?
Oh, it's going to be big, though, because it's just playing off people's nostalgia. And they're not. It's just one special they're doing, aren't they?
Oh,
maybe
is it?
Like an hour long. I don't think it's a series.
Just playing on the old jokes.
I don't
Here's
mind
a
that,
reference
yeah.
you'll understand. Here's another one.
Yeah,
There'll be a
it's
chicken head at some point, a turkey head, sorry, at some point.
Yeah.
It's like, who's pining for a Friends reunion though? Except like
Except probably a lot of people, let's
except
face it.
all 5 of them except Matt LeBlanc.
Yeah, he's in Top Gear now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, Firefly was almost... Not Firefly, goddamn. Jericho was almost given the Netflix approval on that one, and it didn't seem to go through, but there were a lot of rumours for ages. I was very excited, and I thought that's what it needed, because the comic book that they didn't really end it properly, and the seasons were going downhill a little bit, but I feel like it needed a little push. Plus, it gave Skeet Ulrich a career push, because that guy did Scream and Jericho, then nothing else of note. This isn't a rant about him. I'm not doing Ethan Hawke right now. Yeah, so I think we need to decide.
Okay. I'm actually, as much as I was making fun of your one, Ray, I'm actually going to go with yours.
Yes. Well, the runner, it came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, and just conceptually, it does sound really interesting. And I'd love to see that working in different countries. Like,
Oh.
people, no, like,
Oh.
just like how it would work in a different country. Like, people's like,
What do you want me to ring her? Like, Danny, I want you to steal the Mona Lisa.
no, just
Go.
like in America, they'd be a lot more gung ho about it. Whereas if you did it in, I don't know, the UK, I feel like you'd get a very different response from the people hunting, if you know what I mean.
This weird cop. You going, oh, mate, yo, mate.
I feel like you need to
Or
take
gazer.
a wacky reality TV show. You need to take that the one place, which is the only place you can take it.
Channel 5.
Australia.
Australia!
I feel like the people there are so calm about it.
But then you'd have to
stereotyping.
survive the bush. Ah, now the people won't hunt you. Crocs will, though.
Everything is trying to kill you, except for the people.
Even the sun's after you, mate.
Oh, that's
Just
sweet.
the series ends, like, the guy on the run has just got melanomas everywhere.
What a horrible way to end it. Sure. But yeah, no, you're right. In different countries with different political climates at the time,
Yeah.
maybe it would work. And it's never about committing crimes. Just you mentioned about stealing the Mona Lisa. It's very
Nicolas Cage can be in it.
We're gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. Nicolas Cage.
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, indeed.
Stealing.
Alright, should we try and get back on track? What do you
Yeah.
pick, Steph?
I can't vote for Ray's. I'm sorry, because it was never made.
But that's the. It was.
Can't
It
vote
was.
for it. I just can't say it's a good idea, but I can't say that because it was just never made.
Thing is, it was produced, but it was never filmed. That's the idea. So it was a
Yeah.
cancelled show, which is why I
Yeah, you can't miss something that's never happened.
I was going to make an abortion joke. But oh, God. Oh, no. The show. It's slipping out of my fingers.
Just like that child you're about to abort.
Like that fetus you're holding.
Oh, God.
We just have like 5 minutes of quacking at the end.
How can this show just change
What's
so
happened?
much
What's happened?
over the course of like a single episode?
What's
Where we were talking political climates a second ago, and now
What's happened?
no one knows.
I don't know.
It's like the Queen's the Stone Age, man. No one knows.
Okay, let's get back on
Steph,
track.
vote.
Steph, go.
I'm gonna vote for myself. I'm vote for Firefly.
Oh, the Ray Breaker.
Oh, I had this choice before. I gave Scott the title.
Remember, you can vote for your own if you really do like it. I did it last time.
It becomes a hollow victory.
Okay, so
I don't think I can. Do you know what? I think Firefly had its run. It had its ending. I'm going to go with the runner.
Oh,
Cheap victory.
it never happened.
That's the point, mate.
Yeah.
You speculate about what could have been. With Firefly, you sort of saw a lot of what it could have been. I mean, I know there's characters backwards
Could
and
have been
forwards, and
so
so do you.
much more.
Yeah, but that's when it becomes something that's no longer cherished. I feel like
I
because it
don't
was
know.
so short-lived, people loved it more.
And I think it would help if you'd have seen the film. It would have given you a bit
Yeah,
more
probably.
closure on it.
Yeah, because I feel like I experienced it and it's over. I will always, like, if I see Firefly merch, I will always grab it. And I mean, somewhere in this flat, there's a Mal, a Jane, and a River Tam, like, set of statues, which I've got, and I'll always keep those. But it's over.
Boom.
Let it go.
I can just-
Internet.
Actually,
Let it go.
I've just got a reference Steph probably won't get because I think it's in the film. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
No, that's in the first episode.
Oh, was it? I thought it was in the film. I couldn't remember if it was the
I'm
start
gonna
of the
be like-
film or the first episode.
It's very quotable.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up. Ray
So,
Houston,
boom. Ray Houston, two-time world
first
champion.
ever two-time champion. I definitely two-time that one as well because it feels disgusting and slimy.
Shame.
Shame on me.
Shame.
Hollow
I
victory.
think what happened there, Raymond, is that you rolled me up, but your feet were under the rope.
Oh, are we making a reference to Roadblock? What a dog that was. What a cop-out. They chickened on it. It had
Yeah.
such a good pop
I
as
know.
well. Could have been great.
Yeah, because we sort of did look at each other. We like, it's the one time of the night that me and you both just sort of made eye contact and went, maybe this is real.
Yeah, and I actually lifted my arm. I actually like celebrated, like I lifted my up in the air, and then when I realised it didn't happen, straight back down again. It was gutting. Anyway,
Heart-wrenching. For anyone who has no idea what we're talking about, I apologise.
just I wouldn't recommend watching it either. So
Yeah.
I feel like it
Yeah.
should remain
Just
without context.
Just press the exit button now.
So I've stolen the title. I'm going to run off with it, do a quick outro for you guys now, okay? I've been one of your hosts, Ray Houston, current reigning and defending champion.
You put the Ray into raining.
I did, do you know what, one thing I will reference about last night, we saw the funniest crowd sign. Now there's Roman Reigns, the wrestler who everyone pushes, who everyone hates, right? They think he's the company sort of shill guy. We saw a sign that says, "When it rains, it bores." And do you know what? That made the night.
Awesome.
I forgot about that completely. I suddenly so much happier.
There was that and Ric Flair's kissy face.
I've been joined by the resident wallflower, Steph Hughes.
Good night, folks.
And as yet unnamed,
Danny the...
fact-filled Danny Crane.
Hello, and then goodbye.
We're on iTunes now, folks. Do you want to say
Absolutely.
I don't support this.
Shameless plugs. We have a Facebook page where you can like and interact with us. We have a Twitter page which we use to tell you when the new episodes go up. And we have a website where you can listen to us as well as subscribe on iTunes, comment, give us 5 stars, make us feel happy. All for free, by the way. And that is all.
Night.
Bye.
Brr.